In a small village surrounded by green fields and quiet rivers, the people lived simple lives. They worked hard in the farms, cared for their animals, and trusted the rhythm of nature. Every birth of a calf was seen as a blessing, because anew, life meant milk, work, and hope for the future. But one night something unusual happened, something that would leave the whole village whispering. A cow was about to give birth. Her owner waited in the dim light of the barn, nervous and restless. The cow groaned, the air was heavy, and soon the sound of a newborn calf filled the night. But when the farmer bent down to see the calf, his eyes grew wide in shock. "This one is huge," he whispered to himself, almost afraid of his own words. The calf was massive, bigger than any calf the farmer had ever seen in his life. Her legs were thick, her body large, and she struggled to move at first. The mother cow licked her gently, but even she seemed surprised by the size of her child. The farmer called his wife, his neighbors, and soon many people gathered around the barn. Whispers spread quickly. "This calf is not normal. She is too big. Something is wrong." The villagers stared with mixed feelings: fear, curiosity, and amazement. The calf tried to stand, her legs shook, but after a few attempts she stood tall. Her huge form towered over the other calves born that season. Children peeked from behind their parents, pointing at the newborn. Some giggled nervously. Others stepped back as if she were dangerous. The farmer sighed deeply. "Such a size. I don't know if it is a blessing or a curse." Days passed and the calf grew quickly. She drank more milk than others. She walked slower, but her body was strong. The villagers gave her names. Some called her Giant. Some called her Shadow. To her mother, she was simply a child, a life to protect. But to the villagers, she was different, and being different was not always safe. At night, the farmer sat with his wife and spoke in low tones. "She is too big. She cannot run like others. She cannot grow like normal calves," he said. His wife looked at him with worry. "But she is still a life. We must wait and see." The farmer nodded, but his eyes carried doubt. When the calf walked in the fields, other animals moved aside. She was too big to play with them, too heavy to run with them. The small calves looked at her with wide eyes, unsure if she was one of them. She felt lonely, but she did not understand why. Her heart longed for friendship, but her body made her stand apart. Sometimes the children of the village followed her at a distance. They laughed at her size, threw small stones, and shouted, "She is not normal. She looks like a monster," they said. The calf's large eyes filled with sadness, but she remained silent. Her mother stayed close, protecting her as much as she could. One day, the village elder came to see her. He looked at the giant calf carefully, then shook his head. "She is too big to breed, too big to be useful," he said in a cold voice. The farmer lowered his eyes because deep inside he feared those words were true. Whispers spread faster. "The giant calf has no future. She will only bring trouble." Yet, when the sun set and the fields turned golden, the calf would walk alone. She would lift her head to the sky, watching birds fly freely. In her heart, she wanted the same freedom, the same acceptance. She did not know what the future held, but she carried hope. Even in her loneliness, even in her difference, she carried the innocence of a child. The villagers saw her as a burden, but she did not know this fully yet. To her, every new day was a chance to see the light, to breathe the air. Her giant form was heavy, but her spirit was gentle. The world around her was beginning to turn against her, but she still looked at it with soft eyes. And so, the giant calf's life began, not with joy, but with whispers of doubt, not with celebration, but with fear. Every step she took made the ground tremble. Every glance at her made people wonder. Was she a curse sent by nature, or was she a hidden blessing yet to be revealed? The answer was not clear, but one thing was certain. Her story had just begun, and it was going to change everything. The giant calf grew faster than anyone expected. Her legs were long and strong, her body heavy and wide. When she walked through the fields, the ground shook lightly under her weight. Other calves moved aside, leaving her to walk alone. From the beginning, she wanted to play. She tried to run with the smaller calves, But they were quick and light. They jumped and kicked happily while she stumbled behind. Her heavy steps made her fall, and the others laughed. She stood again, her big eyes filled with quiet sadness. No one wanted her in their circle. She was different, and that difference felt like a wall, the villagers noticed. When children came to see the animals, they pointed at her size. "She looks like a bull, but she is only a calf," one boy said. Another girl whispered, "She will never fit anywhere." Their words cut deep, though the calf did not fully understand. All she felt was loneliness growing heavier each day. Her mother stayed close, licking her gently. The mother's eyes showed love, but also worry. She knew her child was not like the others. She knew the villagers' eyes carried doubt and fear. At night, when the calf rested beside her, the mother would sigh softly, as if she wanted to say, "Stay strong, little one." The farmer, too, struggled with his feelings. When he looked at the giant calf, his heart felt torn. "She eats too much. She cannot play. She cannot breed," he said to his wife. "But she is alive. She deserves a chance," his wife replied. The farmer nodded, yet his eyes often looked heavy with concern. He was a man caught between love and survival. In the pasture, the giant calf kept trying to join the others. One sunny morning, she ran toward the herd. She wanted to be part of their play, but the calves moved away, forming a circle without her. She lowered her head, trying to hide her tears. The sound of their laughter echoed louder than her footsteps. The struggle was not only with the animals, but with the people too. When strangers visited the village, they always noticed her. Some laughed, some shook their heads, some even said cruel words. "This one will never be useful," they declared. "She is too big, too strange." The calf did not know the meaning of their words, but she felt their rejection in the way they looked at her. Every stare was like a shadow following her. Still, she searched for kindness. One day, a little boy came quietly to the barn. He offered her a small piece of bread. She bent her head and took it gently from his hand. For a moment, her heart felt light. The boy smiled, but when other children saw him, they pulled him away. "Don't go near the giant, she is scary," they said. The boy hesitated, then walked away, leaving the calf alone again. Each day became a test of patience. She wanted to belong, but the world pushed her aside. Her body was strong, but her heart was tender. She carried sadness like a hidden weight. Even the wind seemed to whisper, "You do not fit." As the weeks turned into months, the calf grew taller and heavier. Her size, once surprising, now became a burden. She could not pass through narrow gates. She could not share the small shelter. The farmer had to build a separate space for her. It was meant for comfort, but it made her feel more apart. While the others slept together, she slept alone. The night air felt colder without company. She cried softly, a sound no one noticed in the village. People began to talk more openly. "She is useless. She cannot breed. She cannot serve," they said. "Why waste food on her?" Another replied. The farmer listened, his heart heavy. He wanted to protect her, but he also needed to think of his family. Every day the choice grew harder, and the calf, though innocent, felt the tension in the air. But even in her struggle, she showed moments of quiet beauty. When the morning sun rose, her shadow stretched long across the field. She stood proudly, her big eyes watching the world with wonder. When the breeze touched her, she closed her eyes as if dreaming, though no one saw it. Her heart carried hope. Hope that one day someone would see her not for her size but for her soul. The struggle to belong was real. Her story was no longer just about being big. It was about being unwanted, unseen, and unloved. Yet inside her, a small flame of faith remained. She did not give up. She did not stop trying. Even when rejected, she took one more step toward the herd. Even when mocked, she lifted her head again. Because deep inside, she still believed there was a place for her in this world. And as the days moved forward, the struggle became heavier. The whispers grew louder, the stares sharper. The calf's heart was breaking slowly. But she kept walking, kept breathing, kept hoping. Her journey was only beginning, and the hardest choices were yet to come. The giant calf was no longer a small creature. She had grown into a towering figure, her body wide and her legs thick. When she walked, her steps were slow and heavy, but they shook the ground with power. Yet, for all her strength, she carried a heart that only wanted love and belonging. The villagers, however, did not see her heart. They only saw her size, her difference, and her burden. One evening, as the sun turned red over the fields, the farmer sat with the village elders. Their faces were serious, their voices low but sharp. "She is too big," one elder said. "She cannot breed. Her size will only bring trouble." Another added, "She eats more than 3 calves, yet she gives nothing back." The farmer kept his eyes down, torn between duty and compassion. Home, his wife tried to comfort him. "She is still a life, she still breathes, she still feels," she said softly. But the farmer shook his head. "The people will not accept her. They say she is useless, they say she is a waste." His wife's eyes filled with tears. "And what do you say? Do you also see her as nothing?" The farmer could not answer. His silence was heavier than his words. The next morning, whispers ran through the village like fire. "The giant calf will be sold," they said. "She is too big to breed. Better to sell her for meat." Children repeated the words they heard from adults. Some laughed, others looked sad, but all of them stared at the giant with curious eyes. The calf did not understand the words, but she felt the change in the air. She felt the looks, colder than before, sharper than before. The farmer began to avoid her gaze. He fed her quickly, then walked away without touching her head as he once did. The mother cow sensed danger. She stayed close to her child. At night she mooed loudly, as if warning the world to stay away, but the walls of the barn could not protect against human decisions. One afternoon 2 men came to the farm. Their clothes smelled of the marketplace. Their eyes were fixed on the giant calf. They walked around her, speaking in low tones. "She will bring good money, look at her size, her meat will feed many," one man said. The calf looked at them with wide, innocent eyes. But they saw only weight, not soul. They touched her body roughly, measuring her like an object. Her skin trembled under their hands and she stepped back confused and afraid. The farmer stood near, his face pale. He knew what they wanted, and deep inside he knew what they planned. But he felt trapped between survival and mercy. His farm was small. His family needed money, and the villagers pushed him harder each day. "Sell her before it's too late," they told him. "She will never give you calves, she will never be useful." Each word was like a stone thrown at his heart. That night, the farmer could not sleep. He walked outside and saw the giant calf lying beside her mother. She was awake, her big eyes glowing softly in the moonlight. She looked at him, not with anger, not with fear, but with trust, as if she believed he would always protect her. The farmer turned away, tears filling his eyes. He whispered to himself, "What am I doing? What am I becoming?" But the morning would not wait for his answer. The decision was made in silence. The men from the marketplace returned, this time with ropes. The calf resisted, her body strong, but her innocence did not understand why. Her mother cried out, pulling against the wooden fence. The villagers gathered to watch, their eyes cold and curious. Some said, "It is for the best." Others simply watched without emotion. The air was heavy, the sky gray, as if even nature mourned. The calf stumbled as the ropes pulled her. Her legs shook, her breath grew fast, her heart beat with fear. She did not know why she was being taken. She only knew the voices were harsh, the hands were rough. Her eyes searched the crowd, searching for kindness, for mercy, but none came. The farmer stood behind, his face hidden. He could not watch fully, but he could not stop it either. Every step the calf took away from the farm was like a cut in his soul. His wife stood by the door, her hands covering her mouth, her eyes wet with tears. She whispered, "Please don't do this." But her voice was too soft against the roar of the world. The villagers turned back to their homes. The mother cow cried until her voice broke. The giant calf was gone, walking into a future she could not see. Her struggle to belong had ended in rejection. And now the harsh decision had sealed her fate. Or so it seemed, yet, deep inside her eyes there was still a spark of life, a spark of hope. Because destiny had not finished its work. The harsh decision was not the end of her story. It was only the beginning of something greater. The ropes pulled tight against her neck. The giant calf stumbled forward, her heavy body struggling to move. Her eyes looked back again and again, searching for her mother. The mother cow cried loudly, her voice breaking the air of the village. But no one listened. No one stopped. The villagers watched in silence, some curious, some cold. To them, it was only business, only survival. The men pulling her laughed as they walked. "She is heavy, she will bring good money," one of them said. "Too big to breed, but big enough to sell," another replied. Their words cut the air, sharp and cruel. The calf did not understand their language, but she felt their harshness. She felt like an object, not a life. Her steps dragged, her breath quickened, but the ropes forced her forward. The road to the marketplace was long. Dust rose with every heavy step she took. Children ran alongside for a while, pointing at her size. Some shouted, "Look at the monster." Others whispered, "Poor thing." But soon they grew bored and returned to their homes, leaving her alone with the men and the ropes. The sun burned high above, the air dry and heavy. Her tongue hung out, searching for water, but no one gave her a drop. She stumbled, her knees hitting the ground. The men pulled harder, shouting at her. "Get up, useless beast," one yelled. Slowly, painfully, she stood again. Her body trembled, but her spirit forced her forward. Every step felt endless. Her hooves cracked against the hard road. Her eyes stung with dust, her chest rose and fell like a drum. She looked at the sky as if asking for help, but the sky only stretched, silent and wide. No answer, no mercy, only the sound of ropes, footsteps, and cruel laughter. As the journey continued, villagers from other farms saw her. Some shook their heads, saying, "Such a waste." Others admired her size, but only as a measure of meat. No one saw her as a soul. No one saw her pain. She was a shadow moving across the land, a prisoner walking without crime. At one point, they stopped by a stream. The men drank water and washed their faces. The calf looked at the water with desperate eyes, her lips dry, her throat burning. She stepped forward to drink, but the rope pulled her back. "Not for you," one man said, pushing her away. Her heart sank. Her hope thinned. Even the water so close was not for her. As the sun began to fall, the road grew darker. The calf's legs felt heavy like stones. Her breath rattled, her body ached. She wanted to rest, to lie down and sleep. But the ropes never allowed it. The men pushed, pulled, shouted, her body obeyed, but her spirit cried. In her mind, she remembered the green fields of her home. She remembered her mother's warm tongue, licking her gently. She remembered the mornings when the sun touched her face softly. Those memories were her only comfort. She held on to them like a secret fire inside, because without them the darkness of the road would swallow her. The path finally reached the edge of the marketplace. The air was different there, heavy with noise, heavy with fear. Animals cried from cages, goats bleated, chickens screamed. The smell of blood and sweat filled the place. The calf froze, her heart racing. She sensed danger. She sensed death. Her eyes widened as if she could see the fate that awaited her. The men laughed again. "She will sell fast," they said. They tied her to a wooden post, the rope tight against her neck. Other buyers walked past, staring at her size. Some nodded in approval. Others counted coins in their hands. The calf pulled against the rope, her eyes searching for something, anything, hope, mercy, a kind face. But all she found were eyes filled with greed, hands ready to trade her life for money, the eye. Night came, but it brought no rest. The calf stood tied, her body swaying with exhaustion. She closed her eyes, but every sound kept her awake. The cries of other animals, the clink of coins, the laughter of men. Her journey of despair had not ended, it had only brought her deeper into the pit, and yet inside her tired body the spark of life still burned. It was weak, but it refused to die. Because even in despair, Even in pain, she carried something stronger. A small voice inside that whispered, "Hold on. Something will change." She did not know when, she did not know how, but she believed. And that belief, even in the darkest place, kept her standing. Her story was not over. The ropes could hold her body, the marketplace could break her spirit. But destiny was moving quietly, and soon, someone would appear who did not see meat, who did not see burden. Someone who would see her soul. The journey of despair was leading her to the edge of fate, and fate was waiting with a new turn. The marketplace was alive with noise. Traders shouted about their goods, coins clinked, and animals cried. The smell of dust, sweat, and fear filled the air. Tied to a wooden post, the giant calf stood trembling, her body exhausted, her eyes wide with despair. She did not know why she was there. She only knew that every face around her looked at her with greed or judgment. Buyers came one by one, circling her. Some touched her legs, some pressed her side, some pulled her rope. "She is huge. She will bring more meat than any other," one said. "Yes, her size is her value," another replied. The calf lowered her head, trying to escape their stares, but the rope forced her to stand. No one saw her as a living soul. To them, she was only weight and price. The men who brought her smiled with pride. They saw gold in her body, coins in her breath. "She will sell quickly. No one will miss this chance," they said. And yet, hours passed and still she remained tied. Some buyers hesitated. "She is too big. Moving her will be hard," they whispered. Others feared her strange size. "What if she brings bad luck?" one man muttered. So she waited, trapped in the middle of the chaos, her ears full of noise, her heart full of silence. Then as the sun began to sink, a stranger appeared. He was not like the others. His steps were calm, his eyes steady. While others rushed with greed, he walked slowly, watching carefully. He did not look at the animals as meat. He looked at them as lives, each with a beating heart. When his gaze fell on the giant calf, he stopped. He saw what no one else saw. Not just her massive form, not just her tired body. He saw the sadness in her eyes, the fear hidden behind her silence. He saw a soul begging to be understood. For a moment, the crowd around him faded. It was only him and the giant calf, two lives crossing in fate. He stepped closer. The men pulled the rope, showing her size. "Look at her. Strong and heavy. Perfect. For meat," they said eagerly. The stranger did not answer. He only looked into her eyes. The calf met his gaze, and something strange happened. Her trembling slowed, her breath steadied. It was as if she felt safety for the first time. The men grew impatient. "Well, do you want her or not?" they asked. "She is big. She is rare. She will not wait forever." The stranger finally spoke, his voice calm but firm. "I will take her." The men smiled wide. "Good choice. She will bring much meat." But the stranger's eyes grew sharp. "No," he said. "Not for meat. She is not food. She is life." The marketplace fell quiet. Some laughed, thinking it was a joke. "Who buys such a beast for anything else?" one man shouted. Others shook their heads, whispering, "He must be mad." But the stranger did not move. His voice was steady. "She belongs with me now." Coins exchanged hands, heavy bags of money. The men grinned, happy with their profit, but the stranger did not smile. He only untied the rope slowly, gently, as if freeing a prisoner. The calf stepped back nervously. She expected more pulling, more pain, but instead the stranger touched her head softly. For the first time, a human hand felt kind. Her eyes filled with tears, though she could not cry. Her heart beat faster, but this time not from fear. The crowd murmured, "Why waste money on her if not for meat? He is a fool, a dreamer." But some watched in silence. They saw the way the calf leaned slightly toward the stranger. They saw the way her shaking stopped when he touched her. And in that silence, they too felt something, though they would never admit it. The stranger led her away, not with force, not with cruel ropes, but with calm steps and gentle guidance. She followed, slowly at first, then with growing trust. Every step away from the marketplace was like leaving Despair behind her heart, once heavy with sorrow, now carried a small flame of hope. The sun set fully. The sky painted with gold and red. The giant calf walked beside the stranger, no longer a prisoner. Her journey of despair had taken a turn. She did not know where he would take her. She did not know what future awaited. But she knew one thing. Clearly, for the first time, someone had seen her as life, not as meat. That night, when the world grew quiet, she rested near him. Her body still weak, but her spirit lighter. The stranger whispered softly, as if speaking to her heart. "You are safe now. You are not for sale. You are not for slaughter." The calf closed her eyes slowly. For the first time since her birth, sleep came without fear. The unexpected stranger had changed everything, and her story was no longer about despair. It was about hope, waiting to grow. The giant calf walked beside the stranger, her heavy body swaying with each step. The ropes that once cut her skin now hung loose in his gentle hands. He did not pull. He did not force. He only guided. And she followed, unsure at first, but slowly trusting. Each step away from the marketplace felt like a step away from death. The villagers who had seen them leave still whispered, "Why waste money on her?" they asked. "She cannot breed, she cannot work, she is nothing but a burden." But the stranger's ears did not listen to their doubts. His heart was louder, his compassion stronger. He had seen something no one else could see. Not a beast, not a burden, but a soul waiting to be loved. When they reached his land, the air felt different. It was open, green, and quiet. There was no shouting, no laughter filled with cruelty, only the soft sound of the wind and the rustle of leaves. The calf lifted her head, breathing deeply. For the first time in her life, she felt the air of freedom. The stranger untied the rope fully and dropped it to the ground. The calf blinked in confusion. She was free, but she did not know what freedom meant. Would he leave her? Would he push her away? Instead, he stepped closer and touched her gently. "You are mine now," he whispered. "Not for meat, not for work, but for life." Her body trembled, not with fear, but with emotion. She took a slow step forward, pressing her head softly against his arm. It was a small gesture, but it carried everything she felt. Her gratitude, her relief, her hope. The stranger smiled, and for the first time, she saw kindness reflected in human eyes. The days that followed were quiet. The stranger gave her food, clean water, and a place to rest. He spoke to her often, even though she could not understand his words, but she understood his tone, gentle and warm. She understood his touch, never cruel, never harsh. And slowly her heart began to heal. Still, her past scars lingered. At night, when the wind howled, she sometimes shook with fear. Memories of ropes, cruel laughter, and harsh voices haunted her. She would lift her head suddenly, expecting pain. But the stranger was always there, his voice steady. "Calm. You are safe now," he said. His words were simple, but his presence was stronger than any nightmare. The villagers who lived nearby often came to see her. They shook their heads, surprised she was still alive. "Why do you keep her?" they asked the stranger. "She is a waste. She will give you nothing." The stranger looked at them calmly. "She gives me enough," he replied. They laughed, thinking him foolish, but he did not care. He knew what they would never understand, that compassion itself was a gift, and life, no matter how different, was worth protecting. As the weeks passed, the calf grew stronger. Her coat shone under the sun, her steps became steady. She explored the green fields, lifting her head proudly. Other animals in the area began to approach her slowly. At first, they kept their distance, wary of her size, but when they saw her calm nature, they accepted her. For the first time, she did not feel like an outcast. She was part of a place, part of a family. One evening, the stranger stood by the fence, watching her. The golden light of sunset painted her massive form in warm colors. She looked powerful yet gentle, strong yet innocent. He whispered softly, "They called you a burden, but to me you are a blessing." The calf walked toward him, pressing her nose against his hand. In that moment it was clear. She was no longer just an animal. She was claimed with compassion, and that compassion had given her new life. But even as peace filled her days, a shadow of the past remained. Some villagers still spoke behind the stranger's back. "They will regret this. She is too big. She will cause trouble." Others wondered if he would grow tired of her one day. But the stranger's heart did not bend. He had chosen her, and his choice was final. To him, compassion was not weakness, it was strength. The calf, once tied and dragged, now walked freely, her eyes no longer wide with fear, but calm with trust. She still carried her size, her difference, but she no longer carried it as a curse because someone had seen beyond it. Someone had given her what no one else dared, acceptance. And as she stood under the stars at night, the wind brushing her face, she felt something she had never felt before. Belonging. The harsh decision of the past had led her to despair, but compassion had pulled her back to hope. Her story was no longer about rejection, it was about love stronger than fear, a love that claimed her, not as meat, not as burden, but as life. The giant calf, once a prisoner of ropes, now stood free in the open fields. Her massive form no longer felt like a curse, but like a gift of strength. The stranger who had rescued her walked by her side each day. He spoke softly to her, not as an owner, but as a friend. She listened, her ears turning toward his voice, her eyes calm with trust. Each morning the sun painted the sky with gold, and each morning she greeted the light with quiet joy. No longer did she wake to the sound of cruel voices or the sting of ropes. She woke to peace, to freedom, to compassion. Her world, once filled with fear, now carried the warmth of safety. The villagers still talked, their words sharp and doubtful. "She will never give calves. She will never work. Why keep her?" they said. But the stranger did not argue with them. He only smiled and looked at the calf with gentle eyes. "She does not need to give anything. She already is enough," he replied. The villagers shook their heads, unable to understand. But deep inside, some felt the truth of his words. Though, they stayed silent. The calf spent her days exploring her new home. She walked through the grass, heavy yet graceful. Birds flew above her, unafraid, singing their songs. Other animals approached her, curious and gentle. She was no longer pushed aside, no longer mocked. She was accepted, simply for being alive. At night, under the blanket of stars, she often lay close to the stranger's home. She listened to the soft hum of the wind, the whispers of the trees. She closed her eyes, knowing she was safe. Her dreams, once haunted by fear, now glowed with hope. She dreamed of endless fields, of companionship, of freedom. Dreams that felt real because compassion had made them possible. One evening, the stranger sat beside her in the grass. He spoke softly, his voice carrying warmth. "They said you were too big to breed. They said you were useless," he whispered. "But to me you are more than enough. You are proof that life is not measured by what it gives, but by what it is." The calf lowered her head, pressing it gently against him. Her massive form, once seen as a burden, now leaned with trust and love. In that quiet moment, the bond between them was unbreakable. The seasons began to change. The once frightened calf grew into a strong, calm creature. Her coat shone under the sunlight. Her steps were steady and proud. The villagers who once mocked her now paused when they saw her. Some began to wonder. Perhaps she was not a mistake after all. Children who once laughed at her size now reached out their small hands, and she, with her gentle heart, allowed them to touch her. Her eyes soft, her spirit kind. Slowly, she became more than just an animal in the village. She became a symbol. A symbol of survival, of compassion, of hope. People who once looked at her with scorn now saw the lesson she carried, that every life has value, no matter how different, no matter how judged. The stranger never sought praise. He only lived each day with kindness. But his act of saving her spread quietly from one voice to another. Travelers passing through the village spoke of the giant calf and the man who saved her. They told stories not of meat or money, but of mercy. And slowly, her story became larger than the village. It became a story of hope shared by many. For the calf, the greatest gift was not the fields, not the food, not even freedom. The greatest gift was belonging. She no longer stood apart, no longer lived. In fear of rejection, she was loved. She was claimed with compassion, and in that love she found her place on a quiet morning as the sun rose again. She lifted her head high, her breath steady, her body strong, her spirit at peace. She looked across the fields, no longer afraid of the future, because the future was hers now, not stolen by ropes or cruel hands. It was a new beginning, a beginning, born from despair, saved by kindness, and carried by hope. The villagers who once called her a curse now saw her differently. Some bowed their heads when they passed, as if ashamed of their words. Some brought small gifts of food, hoping to earn forgiveness. And children now ran freely near her, no longer mocking but laughing with joy. The giant calf had not only found a new beginning for herself, she had changed the hearts of those around her. Her story, once filled with rejection and pain, now became a story of compassion and belonging. She was no longer the calf too big to breed. She was the calf too loved to lose. And her life, once measured in weight and price, was now measured in hope and love. As the stars shone above and the fields whispered in the night, the calf stood tall, her heart free, her spirit alive. The world that once rejected her could no longer break her, because she had been seen, she had been saved, she had been loved. And that love had given her a gift no cruelty could take away. A new beginning, a life worth living, not as meat, not as burden, but as family.